Hey everybody, welcome back to the Author on Wheels podcast. I'm your host, John Wood, author of A Fight to Survive, and we are finally getting ready to kick off Season 6, Episode 3 of our podcast with an incredible interview. So grab a drink, pull up a chair, and get ready for the Author on Wheels podcast. Welcome back to the show. On the last episode, I had a lovely discussion with my friend Aston Clark over in the United Kingdom. If you have not listened to that episode, I invite you to go check it out. I will have it linked in the show notes. But today, I am joined by my friend and fellow published author, Kathryn Hicks. Kathryn is a disability advocate with Spinal Muscular Atrophy Type 2. She was crowned the 2024 Miss Wheelchair South Carolina. Kathryn, welcome to the Author on Wheels podcast, my friend.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I'm glad to have you today. Now, Kathryn, it's not often that I have a quote unquote celebrity on my podcast, and I honestly am blown away with your accomplishments so far. I've been reading up on you, and I've seen some of your work since we've connected on Instagram and whatnot, and I'm honestly very surprised and very blessed to actually have contact with someone like you.
Yeah,
We both follow Shane Burkaw, another person with spinal muscular atrophy.
you would
But
do. Yeah.
before we go on, tell us a little bit about spinal muscular atrophy so that my viewers know what exactly it is.
Yeah, okay. It's a spinal muscular atrophy. It's SMA for short.
Hmm.
It is a genetic disorder that it, long story short, the way the doctors explained it to my parents is it causes your muscles to get sick in a way
Hmm.
and eventually just die. So, like, when I was really young and I was diagnosed at 13 months, and I could do, I never could walk or stand or anything like that.
Right.
But my dad said what they got to noticing was I would sit up, or they would sit me up,
Hmm.
and then I would just fall over.
Ooh.
So, um, that's how they noticed, okay, something's wrong.
Right. Exactly.
So they had me tested and everything,
Hmm.
and then that's what they said. It's the technical part of it is every human has a gene in their body.
Right.
It's called the SMN1 gene. And in SMA people, we don't have that gene. And what that gene does is it's a fluid in your spinal cord
Okay.
that sends signals to your brain telling your muscles to move.
So
Which,
basically, what you're saying is people in SMA, people with SMA, are missing that gene or that.
right,
Okay.
yes,
Okay, and it's called the SMN1.
yes.
Okay, I will have to do my research on that. That sounds quite interesting.
Yeah, it is once you get to reading up on it and
Right.
doing research.
I mean, I follow a few people. You, one of them, and then Shane Burkaw, the other one, with SMA. And be- between the two of you, I don't know much about it. And you've just given me a history lesson, and thank you for that.
Yeah,
All right.
not many. It's
Like,
funny because people say SMA is rare,
right.
and it is in a way, but when you get to researching it, there's so many people that have it, and you don't realize how many do until you start looking. But
Right.
I think it's so rare because it's not a very talked about disorder.
Hmm.
So nobody talks about it, so nobody knows anything about it. But that's that's really what I've been trying to do is bring more attention to it and tell everybody that, we have SMA, but I mean, we're still just like you. We're still normal people. We just can't move our muscles.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That is very, very true, and that's kind of the same with spina bifida. Um, I was diagnosed, well, not diagnosed, but my parents were told I was going to have spina bifida at 6 months old, and here I am. They told my parents I was going to live 2 hours and die.
Oh
Um,
goodness.
where's the logic there? I'm 29, almost 30, and I'm
Right.
sitting in front of this computer talking to you. I
Right.
should be
Yeah.
dead. I
Yeah.
mean,
Me. Same here. My parents were told I got really sick. When I was diagnosed, I think,
right.
and they told my parents to bring me home, play with me, enjoy me, because I wasn't gonna live past 2 years old. And I am 31, so
31?
I am.
Dang!
Yeah,
You are a fighter. Go
I'll
ahead.
be 32 in September.
Well, that's incredible. That is very incredible. Okay, I sent you some
Uh,
questions. A couple days ago I sent you some questions, and
yes.
I've got two sets of questions here. Um, were yours geared towards disability and advocating? Because I've got two sets of questions for this podcast that I use.
Um, it was more towards the book writing.
Okay, all right then. So I've got my normal questions. I'm sorry, I've got two sets of interview questions for whoever I'm interviewing with. So,
Yeah, it's
all
okay.
right. So basically, first off, tell us about yourself, including your book titles and what led you to writing.
Yeah, well, I just kind of told you about me
Hmm.
that my name's Kathryn and I have SMA,
Yep.
and my book title is The Immortal Detective. And what led me to write was it's kind of funny. Well, not really, I guess. But I've always loved like detective, crime shows,
Hmm.
stuff like that. And when I was younger, I thought, man, how cool would it be to be a detective but have immortality, like
Exactly.
be indestructible. You could you could save everybody. So I had that in my head
Right.
forever. And then one day I thought that would be a pretty good book. So I got to thinking and I wrote down the title first.
Right.
And then it was like it just started coming to me. And next thing I knew I had two chapters written.
Dang.
it
That's
it was
quite interesting, eh?
yeah, yeah. It was surprising of how easy it just come to me.
It
And
just flows like water.
yeah, it does. Yeah.
That's I'm glad you talked about that. I'm glad you talked about how it just came to you because the next question I had for you was what would you say fuels your passion for writing?
Well, I've always loved to read
Hmm.
and I like to get lost in books. When I read, I like put myself myself in the story, and I really wanted to be that author that helped people escape all those craziness of the world
Yes.
and just give people something amazing to read, just that they could have some peace for a few hours. And I think that's really what pushed me to finish the book, because I like making people happy, and that's really what drove me to do it.
That that is so spot on right there. Wow. That just hit me. That
And
wow.
I will say, all the positive feedback that I've got from this one, it pushed me to write part 2 of
Oh
this book.
dang.
So I'm currently working on the second half of this one.
Dang. That is insane. I I'm working on part 2 of mine right now, and it's going to be because the first book I had was called A Fight to Survive. The next one's going to be called My Fight Continues. Because my fight ain't
Oh,
over.
no, never,
No, our fight is not over yet. So I'm
no.
glad you did that. I'm glad you're doing that.
That's a good title. I like that.
Thank you. What advice would you give those listening who possibly want to write a book, but they're having trouble thinking of ideas or motivating themselves to write? What would you say?
My advice would just take a leap of faith and do it. Just don't force yourself to do it though, because I've always I've I wanted to get done in a timely manner,
Right.
but I've never set a limit for myself,
Hmm.
because if I try to rush or something, it's gonna feel more like a job instead of like a fun hobby that I
Exactly.
enjoy. So just take your time, do it, take all the time you need, and do like take your favorite topic and write a story about it. That's that's really all it takes.
Wow. That Okay, that just blew me away yet again. Good lord.
And
Good good lord, you are a gold
I will
mine.
say,
Go ahead.
thank you.
Go ahead.
I will say another piece of advice. I actually had the privilege of meeting Nicholas Sparks. He is one of my favorite authors,
Oh my god.
and I I was in the middle of writing my first book, and but I was stuck. I had
Right.
writer's block, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do now?" It was coming up close to a year, and I wasn't even finished. I was like, "This isn't the job for me. It shouldn't take this long to write a book." And I was really beating myself up. So I, like I said, I met him. He was at a local bookstore, and I went and just got to talking to him for a minute. And he was super nice. There were people lined up way around the store, but yet he took time to talk to me and answer questions I had. But he told me, because it talked about being writer's block, and he said, "Don't give up." He said, "One of my books took me a year to finish, but yet it come to me, and now it's a bestseller, obviously.
Yes.
I can't remember what book it was, but after he told me that, I finished my book in like 2 months.
Wow.
It made me feel better that such a huge, successful author still had writer's block, and it took him a year as well. So let that be. I hope that can be encouraging for somebody else, because it may take you a year and a half. It could even take 2 years to write a book. You have to stick with it and finish it, and it'll be good when you do get it done.
That's insane. It took me 2 years to write my book, and it took me another 2 years to find a publisher.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I went with a print on demand person that didn't do all the bells and whistles, put it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all this stuff. And then I
yeah.
switched and I got with the Lulu, who I'm with now, and I've seen my work. I've literally sat there and researched. I've Googled my title, and I've seen it in Italy. I've seen it in France. I've seen it in Australia. I've seen
Oh
it in
wow.
Scotland, Ireland. God, even over in freaking India. I've seen it
Oh,
in India, and
that's awesome.
seeing the title translated into all these languages is like, for a first time author, it's like it's
It's
anxiety.
amazing.
It's
Yeah.
amazing, but it gives you that anxiety of, oh God, what the hell did I just do? What the
Uh,
hell did I just do? And then you're just
yeah.
like, okay, I can relax, I can calm down now because my story is in the hands of people who are actually going to read it and engage with it and be inspired by it. So
Yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you. You just gave me a little bit more of a boost to continue on my second book.
Oh, good. I'm glad I can help.
And now, the finishing. Tell us what's going on in the life of Kathryn Hicks. Tell us what you've got going on. Tell us any projects you're working on, what you've got coming up next. What is next for Kathryn Hicks?
Well, my life has been pretty busy at the moment because I just won the title of Miss Wheelchair South Carolina,
Yes.
and that's been keeping me pretty busy. I am advocating for disability rights, um, things that we desperately need to have equal rights for.
Yes.
So that's my biggest project right now. And then when I find time, I'm still writing the second half of my book,
Right.
and I think that's about it. I will be going in August to compete for Miss Wheelchair America.
Miss Wheelchair
So
America?
yes,
Oh my God, the big leagues for you.
oh yes. So I'm kind of stressed about it,
Hey,
but
don't,
I'm
don't-
trying not to
right,
stress too much
right.
because there's me plus 25 other girls competing.
That's a lot of stress
Yes.
for someone, but if I can
Eh,
give you some advice, don't let it bother you. You just put your best foot forward, or let me say it like this: put your best wheel forward and show
yes.
them that SMA can't keep you down for a fight.
Right,
You
exactly.
know, you can put your mind.
That's my
You can do anything
go
you want
ahead.
to do if you just put your mind to it. Go ahead.
Yes. Yes, exactly. You said it best just right there. Yep.
I tried my best.
Yeah,
I tried my best, and that's the advice that I can give for you. But
yeah.
guys, that's the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'd like to thank our guest, Kathryn Hicks, for joining us today on the Author on Wheels podcast. And before I go, I'd like to impose a question. How are you telling your story? We all have a story to tell, and it's up to us to find our unique way of telling our story. Because, as I always say, our story is only as good as the person telling it. So, with that being said, thank you for listening, and we will see you on the next episode. Kathryn, thank you for joining us, my friend.
Thank you. It's been fun.
We'll see you all soon.